In conclusion summary of this series of presentations about object lifecycle and this use of initializer lists and constant qualifiers, just a few design ideas and good principles to remember when you're working on the design of your classes. So I'd like to bring up again our example of a Java-like string that we discussed in our latest videos, and everything that is declared public in our class could be interpreted as a public interface of our class. In other words, it's like an interface specification of what can be done with our object. So once again, when we start using our objects and we start calling functions, or we could also have access to public data members, anything that is public inside our class declaration right here becomes an interface of this object. So this is officially the idea of object interface. And this interface that's under public label right here, so we say that anybody can use these things in their code like this in main function and elsewhere, right? This is our promise to clients that once we define our interface and we define all of the parameters that are available in all of the functions, constructors, and everything that we do in our class, making it publicly available, it is a promise to our clients, because somebody who decided to use our string class, and supposedly we're programming this thinking about the future evolution of this class to be used in multiple projects and to become popular among other programmers and other projects. We'd like to keep this interface stable, so that we don't want to, like, tomorrow decide that substring should have 4 different parameters instead of just 1. This would be extremely disturbing to people who already started using your class, which means that your concept was already successful. Somebody likes it, and perhaps you have it, you plan to use it as an open source facility and share it with the world. And so you have to be really careful about designing your interface. In other words, designing and deciding what functions you would like to provide to the users of your classes. And sometimes using the correct specification is not obvious. Sometimes things have to change, because we just simply cannot predict any possibility. And if it's a tricky concept that is evolving, it is okay that we will tell the clients now this substring will have 4 different parameters instead of 2 or 1. It's okay. If this is an absolute necessity, most likely your client, the client software who's using your class will, the other programmers will be convinced that this is the right direction, because maybe they actually request this feature from you. So it's okay. However, compiler is really forcing us to think about other aspects of interface, public interface of our classes. Remember, we discovered that we absolutely have to have a copy constructor in this string. Okay, we just made the whole discovery that unless we have this copy constructor, we have some ugly bugs in our code, right? So we just, we can be also guided by the compiler as well as this constants of functions. Remember, everything we do in this section, everything which is declared public in our class declaration, all part of it is part of the specification which is very important to the client software right here. I think in conclusion, there is also a point right here that workarounds such as mutable should be minimized. And I would also say that if you recall the reason why we added this friend, it's also another compromise that we used in our design, which is standard approach, but this is another compromise of encapsulation by declaring certain function to be a friend of our class. Okay, so any kind of workaround or something that really designed to break some other rule like friends or mutable should be used sparingly, and obviously you need to be able to add some comments and think about situations where this is put in place to be able to validate it to yourself and to people with whom you're working, assuming that you're working with other teammates and other groups and other companies.